Hey guys, Mr. Bowman here. Today's learning objective is in green, and we are learning how to plot coordinates. Before we move on to that, there are a few things that we need to be aware of, and they relate to our axes, which are on the right-hand side of our screen. The first one, we need to be able to distinguish which one is the x-axis and which one is the y-axis. And this is really important because once we've identified the x and y axes, we then have to use these axes to plot x and y points appropriately. So the first one I always like to remember, the horizontal one is always the x-axis, and the y-axis is always the vertical one. Once we've done that, we also need to know how to plot a coordinate. So coordinates are given to us in x, y form, and the x relates to its position on the x-axis, and the y relates to its position on the y-axis. Let's get into a couple examples to master this skill. So in task 1, we're looking at question A. We've been asked to plot the coordinate 1, 0. So what we need to do is we need to start off with the 1, or the left-hand number, and we need to remember that left-hand number relates to the x value. So 1 on the x-axis would be there. I've done a tiny little dot. We now need to move that little dot to 0 on the y-axis, and 0 on the y-axis is actually that same point. So that point there would be 1, 0, because x has been moved 1 and y hasn't been moved at all, so y is still on the 0 point. Okay, let's now have a look at question B, 0, 3. So 0 relates to the position on the x-axis, so that hasn't moved, that's at the origin, the very initial point. And then y is 3, so that point has been moved up 3 spots along the y-axis. So that means that point up there would be 0, 3. We've now got something a bit different, 2, 2. So we're going to start off on the 2, and that the first value always relates to the x-axis, and then we're going to move from that point on the x-axis, we're going to move up 2 to our new point. So that's 2 on the x and 2 on the y, and that makes that point 2, 2. We're now going to start dealing with some negative numbers to see how they work. So question D, we've got -1, 2. -1 relates to the x-axis, so let's start off at 0 and move along to -1. And the 2 relates to the y-axis, so let's move that point up to 2. So that means that point there would be -1, 2. And you can see I've left the lines on for this example because you can see how I've got there. We're starting at 0, we move to -1 on the x-axis, and then we move up to +2 on the y-axis. Well, now I'm going to move on to question E. So E relates to 1, -3. So 1 is where that big dot is already there. And we're now going to move down to -3. So that would be 1, that would be 2, and that would be 3. So that makes that point 1, -3. And finally, a coordinate with double negatives. The x is -4 and the y is -5. So let's go there. Let's go. So there's -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Oh, apologies. We actually went 1 too far. We only got into -4 for our x value. And from there, we're going to go down to -5. So that would be -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. So that point there would be -4, -5. So we had heaps of points there. What I'm quickly going to do now is that we've finished task B, I'm just going to rub out some of our workings to make task B, or the second task, a bit easier to see. And I'm going to change my pen to yellow as well. So our next task, task 2, plot the points from the following table. So the issue with this one is we haven't been given a coordinate like we were, like I've just circled up above. We have to convert our table to a coordinate form, and then we can go away and plot those coordinates. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend our table a little bit, and I'm going to draw a line there, and I'm going to create a new column that I'm going to call x, y for the coordinate. And if we have a look at the first row, we've got 1 and 4, so that would be 1, 4. We've got 3 and 2, so it would be 3, 2. Got -1 and -3, and then we've got -2 and -6. So we've converted our x and y values into coordinates. We can now go away with our yellow pen to plot these coordinates. So let's start with the first one. So the first one is 1 and then +4. So we've gone up for 1, 2, 3, 4, just up there. So 1, 4. Oh, apologies, my pen didn't quite work as intended there. 1, 4. We're then going to move on to the next one, 3, 2. So we're going to start off at 3 along the x-axis. So 1, 2, 3. And we're going to go up 2, 1, 2. And that's kind of in the middle of our previous coordinate. That there would be 3, 2. And the next one, we've got, hard to read, but we've got -1, -3. So again, we're going to start on the x-axis. We're going to go across to -1. And we're going to go down to -3. So that's -1, -3. And our last part of this video, -2, -6. So we're going to start at -2 on the x-axis, and we're going to go down to -6, all the way down the bottom of our screen there. Now it'll be -2, -6.